Shalom, my friends. We meet again. Last time in the narration, we saw how God had provided food for the people of Israel. Well, first, he delivered them from the Egyptians. They came through the midst of the Red Sea on dry ground. But then, the little food they had with them, they'd eaten. They complained to Moses. God provided meat for them. He provided bread for them every day. They came to a place where their water bottles were empty, and they complained to Moses again, and God provided water from the rock. And it seems that every time there was an issue, instead of trusting God, they complained and got angry with Moses, wanted to stone him once. And Moses, every time this happened, Moses went to the Lord. And he brought the complaint of the people to the Lord, and God provided. And so the people moved through the wilderness, and in the third month, they came to the wilderness of Sinai, and they found themselves at the base of Mount Sinai. If you remember from past narrations, this is where Moses one day was herding his father-in-law's sheep and goats, and God appeared to him through a burning bush there at the base of Mount Sinai. And in that conversation that God had with Moses, he told him that when he came out of Egypt with the people, they would worship God at this mountain. And so here they are, at this mountain where God appeared to Moses. And so God spoke to Moses and he said, come up the mountain so that I can talk with you. So Moses went up the mountain, and this is what God said. He said, "You shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the people of Israel, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel." So Moses went down and he told these words to the people of Israel. And you know what their response was? Yes, in everything that the Lord says, we will obey. We will follow him. So Moses brought the word of the people to the Lord. And the Lord told Moses to have the people consecrate themselves for 3 days. And they were to wash their clothes as a symbol of purification. And God said, put a perimeter around the mountain, and no person or no animal is to cross that perimeter to come onto the mountain where I am going to reveal myself. And if they did, they were to be put to death. And so this was a holy meeting that God was going to have with his people. And so the people prepared themselves, and on the third day they were all gathered together there at the perimeter of the mountain. And suddenly there was thunderings and there was lightnings, and darkness came upon the mountain. And then all the people heard the voice of God. And this is what God said to them. He said, I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an idol of or form of anything that is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house or anything that belongs to your neighbor. 10 commandments that God gave to the people, and they heard the voice of the Lord himself. You know what the response of the people was? They ran back. They ran back. They said to Moses, listen, you tell us what God says, but if we listen to the voice of God, we will die. Yes, the voice of a holy God speaking to a sinful people, the results without God's mercy is death. So these were the 10 commandments that God gave to the people. They heard them from his own mouth. So God called Moses up the mountain. He had some other things he wanted to share with Moses for the sake of the people. And so Moses went up to the mountain. The people could see the mountain, the lightnings and the mountain glowing at the top and a cloud around it. And Moses disappeared into the cloud of the mountain. And he was there for 40 days and 40 nights. God had some interesting things to tell Moses, all of which I'm not going to tell you this narration, but some of them I will tell you next narration. But what God did do, first thing was to give Moses the 10 commandments written on 2 stone tablets. So the commands that the people heard God speak now had been written on 2 stone tablets, so they would never forget them. And so Moses was up there all this time, and it got to be where the people didn't know that Moses was going to be there that long. And after over a month now, 40 days, the people went to Aaron, Moses' older brother, and they said, you know, we don't know what happened to Moses. He could be dead on that mountain, for all we know. And so they said to Aaron, make for us gods who will go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what's become of him. So Aaron said, okay, take off your rings of gold. And Aaron formed a calf and covered it with gold and set it up in the camp. And the people began to dance around this calf, to bow down before it, to worship it. Mind you, it's only been 40 days since, remember, they said that they would obey all of God's commands. And here they're breaking the first commandment, bowing down before a golden calf. So God said to Moses, you need to go down to the camp because some horrible things are happening there. So Moses came down the mountain, and at the base, Joshua had been there waiting for him. And so as the two of them approached the camp, Joshua says, it sounds like there's a battle going on in the camp. Moses says, no, that's not the sound of battle. That's another sound. So they came into the camp and they saw the people worshiping, bowing down, and frolicking in front of this golden calf. And Moses was so angry with the people. He took the stone tablets and he threw them onto the ground, and they shattered in pieces. And God caused a plague to go through the camp and kill thousands of people. because the people had disobeyed God. They had disobeyed what they said they would obey themselves. And so God called Moses to come up the mountain again, and he told him to prepare 2 stone tablets, which he took up with him, and God again wrote those commandments on those stone tablets. And they were to keep those stone tablets as a memorial of what God had spoken to them. Now, we saw that the people weren't real keen on obeying God and keeping his commandments. And maybe you're wondering what else God told Moses during that time he was up the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And he shared some really interesting things with him. And I would like to tell you about some of those, except not during this narration. You'll have to come back for the next narration and listen to my most favorite narration of all the Old Testament. And so until we see each other again, may God bless you.